Who's that coming down the track? It's a mean machine in red and black. Ain't nothing finer in the land. Them drunk obnoxious Georgia fans. Go, go!
What's up, y'all? This is John and Caleb back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. I'm sure y'all know this by now. We missed recording last week. Fun fact. Neither of us had power. And then Caleb still doesn't have internet. So if you're watching on YouTube, you see he's going to be going in and out. He is actually at his place of business to get internet right now because he doesn't have it at home. I got power back the day I left for a wedding and the game. So I got power back on Thursday. We're talking on Sunday. Almost a full week without power. And yeah, it's rough that Helene came through it all because there's a lot of people suffering. But podcast specifically, it sucks that it came through the weekend of the Bama game. One, I still haven't been able to watch the whole game. But two, I'm sure that there are some people that thought we talked a lot of shit and then just quit the podcast after the loss. Can confirm that didn't happen. Neither of us had the ability to record. Yeah, so you had to step away for a minute, but I was just kind of explaining how much it sucked because we talked a lot of shit about Alabama and then Georgia loses and then we don't post anything for, 9 days. So, but yeah, no, it was.
I'm going to be honest. I thought that was a silver lining, to be completely honest with you. I don't have to take any accountability for anything that I said whatsoever.
Yeah, fun fact, Helene, she's a bitch.
Yeah.
How have you been?
Like Jermaine Burton.
How are you and your family? I know Augusta got hit a little bit harder than we did in Savannah. Y'all good? You safe?
Yeah, we were really lucky. Everything was all right.
All right, guys. We're gonna be dealing with some technical difficulties. Caleb, like I said, is at his place of business using Wi-Fi, and it's a little spotty. So if it goes in and out. Oh, he's back.
Yeah. My bad. I don't know how much
No.
you caught of that.
Um,
Yeah.
You pretty much said we got lucky, and then it cut out.
Yeah. Yeah. So we got lucky. The only damage we got is my taillight on my car got busted out by a limb. Other than that, we also don't have internet, which is why I'm standing out in front of a university building that has Wi-Fi to do this. Because I don't have any internet access at home, but I wasn't about to miss this again.
Yeah, no, for sure. So what really makes me mad for me specifically, first world problems, there's a lot of people going through a lot worse shit. It's just annoying. So, we were legitimately backing out of the driveway. I'm turned around, looking to make sure there's no car coming. I turn back forwards and see the lights on in the house. Like, that's how we were going out of town. So we pull back in, start plugging shit back into the walls. And then my phone's like, Wi-Fi network available. And it connects to my Wi-Fi. All week. We now have 2 generators, right?
Yeah.
All
Okay.
week. All fucking week. Xfinity was like, you don't have service in your area. So I never plugged the router into the generator so we didn't have service. Moments after we get power back, the Wi-Fi is like, oh, LOL, JK, you could have been on Wi-Fi for a week.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, I'm glad y'all had it because for us, we also have Xfinity, but they've been kicking the can down the road with the estimates that they're giving us. But I get that it's tough. There's a lot going on. I just if you tell me, hey, it's gonna be 3 weeks, I'm fine with it. I just don't like the kicking the can down the road and telling me one thing and telling me something different.
Yeah, that's how it was for our power. They said at first, it was like Saturday by 10 p.m. All right, cool, just a couple of days, we're solid. Saturday at 9:30, they're like, all right, Tuesday by 10 p.m. We're like, you know what? A couple more days. We got friends. We can go do laundry. It's fine. I got a Blackstone. We'll cook dinner. It's okay. Tuesday 9:30. It'll be Thursday by 10 p.m.
Oh,
Motherfucker. And then we just when we left the house, we were like, you know what? We'll have power when we get home on Sunday. It'd be okay. Just like
you were
we'll
right.
even give him an extra few days. And then looked back forwards, got power back. I know I'm bitching. There's a lot of people a lot worse off than I am.
Yeah,
Um,
that
but
is annoying though.
it it's more annoying than anything, right? And that's
Yeah.
I get told sometimes I'm an angry person, so when I get annoyed, it comes off as anger. I promise, I'm not mad. Thoughts, heart, everything goes out to the people of North Carolina.
Hmm.
We personally are trying to do some stuff to help, but without having the ability to take off work and go up there, there's not a whole lot. I did tell my wife if was it Milton that's in the Gulf now.
Yeah,
I was like, man, if that shit turns north, I'm taking off work. Like
yeah.
I'm driving the Jeep
That,
up there. I'm
that's
going.
my plan too. We're getting out. We're for the next one. We've not that we had it that bad this time, but at least learned we'd rather not live without some of those basic things if we can avoid it and know about it ahead of time.
Oh, dude. I was planning on talking about it on Sunday last week, but Thursday we got done recording, ate dinner, and then tornado sirens start going off. We're in the
Oh
bathroom,
gosh.
three adults, four dogs, and a cat in like a 6 by 8 bathroom for about 3 hours. And there's a water spout that forms in the river across the street from my house and goes across an uninhabited island over the road you use to get to Tybee and goes off in the middle of nowhere. But we were like 400 yards from a tornado because it initially was headed right to us and then the wind moved it north.
Gotcha. Well, I'm glad the wind moved it north. Goodness.
Oh, it's all good. Somebody had to stay calm when everybody else is freaking out.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be honest, I did leave the bathroom to get a beer because I was like, we've been in here for an hour. I'm trying to watch football. If I'm gonna be uncomfortable, I'm at least have cold beer.
that's fair. That's completely fair.
All right, so we're gonna clean up a little bit from last week, just like a lot of people around the coastal areas are doing. Kentucky proved to the country just how good they can be and how elite their defensive line is, beating a top six team on the road in Oxford. It from what I got to watch of that game, it looked like Ole Miss just didn't really have an answer for the defense of Kentucky.
Yeah, and that certainly made me feel better about Georgia not having an answer for the defense of Kentucky. Uh,
Had one
to
answer,
be
and
honest,
that
though,
one
that
was enough.
yeah, that's true. It's all it needed. Yeah. I do wish it almost wish at least it hadn't gotten my hopes up for what was going to come later in the night. But congratulations to Kentucky. I'm glad they're finally starting to show. Hey, we've actually got a lot more fight in us than you think we do.
Yeah. Oklahoma squeaked out a win at Auburn. And I think the takeaway for this is maybe Oklahoma's not as ready as they thought they would be for the SEC. Defense gave up 338 yards passing to Peyton Thorne. That has not been said since, well, probably ever in his college career.
Yeah, yeah. And that kind of made me raise my eyebrows when Auburn fans were using it to say, "Oh, he's going to throw all over Georgia." Mm,
He threw on Georgia all over is a little much.
yeah, yeah. He threw a little bit.
Georgia Southern is the real GSU. I actually called Governor Kemp up right before we got on here just to confirm because they did beat Georgia State. They covered because they were actually underdogs in that game. So shout out to me for putting money on that game.
Yeah, as you should have.
I know Boise State lost to Oregon earlier in the season in a close game, but Boise State's for real. I mean, just going back to yesterday's games, they won 62-24 against Utah State. Boise State
Yeah,
and the rest of the Group 5 playoff spot is wide open. And honestly, this year, if instead of conference championship games, they were like, hey, we're gonna announce G5 playoff after Army Navy week, but we're gonna have the top group of 5 teams play each other the week of conference championships and the week of Army Navy. I'm in. I'm all in.
Yeah, absolutely. That
Like a
would be
pseudo playoff for the playoff.
that'd
Wild
be a
card
phenomenal
series.
move. The play-in games do really good numbers for March Madness, and none of those teams have a chance. This time, you might actually have a group of 5 teams sneak through a couple rounds.
I
And look,
mean,
that
yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that Gianti kid. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but I'm gonna
Ashton
learn it.
Jeanty.
Ginty. Okay, yeah, Ginty. That kid is good with a
Yeah,
T
so we're going to
at
get
the
to
end.
it a little bit later, but he's currently leading the Heisman odds. The only games
I'm
that he
honestly,
has ran for less than 200 yards in, it was 192, 127, 185. He didn't play the second half of those games.
man, yeah, he has been out of this world. Glad Boise State's not on the schedule for Georgia. That's all I'm say about it.
Yeah, for sure. You got some notes about last week too, because I obviously forgot the biggest thing to talk about.
Yeah, no, I don't know what you mean. I think we covered everything. I don't think there's anything else to really to go over there. Um, no, if we're being serious, I still don't know 8 days later how I feel about the Georgia Alabama game. So I don't know what there is to like. A lot happened, and I watched the things happen. None of them told me anything about what these teams are, especially considering what followed. So I just don't know.
Yeah, and I mentioned it earlier. I didn't get to watch that game. We did go to a bar on Tybee that was playing the game. Um, I will not name the bar because of what I'm about to say. They fed people food that was in their freezer when the power went out for 48 hours.
Oh
Um,
no.
and by let's put it like this, when Alabama was up 28 points is when I started getting sick, so we left and came back home to no power. So yeah, I saw the worst parts of that game minus like 2 plays for Georgia. Um,
Yeah. Just for inside baseball, he did send me some messages about how the game was over. It didn't matter anymore. And
it
I
did.
didn't see them until Georgia took that lead. And I just said, and he said, no, 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 no. Don't want to hear anymore. Apparently they're doing better when I don't know what's happening.
Yep. And I'll be honest,
And
I don't remember sending those. Like
yeah.
true,
Well,
I don't want to get too
immediately after
graphic.
I sent that message, Alabama scored a touchdown to the lead right back. So I guess I shouldn't have even gotten you involved again.
I, Not to be too graphic, but I couldn't figure out which way to go to the toilet because of how bad it was.
Gotcha.
Yeah, rough night for me and the dogs. Just could always be worse.
It
Um,
could be.
so before we get into this week's games, we know it was wild, absolute wild. 7 top 25 teams lost this week. 6 of those losses came to unranked teams. It was 6 of the top 11 lost this week, or no,
Yeah.
something crazy, something crazy.
Yeah. Just something unheard of since a certain year that we covered on this podcast over the off season. I mean,
Yeah,
it's giving me those vibes, and I would like them to continue.
yeah. One of the games we're going to get to, um, we were watching it on the phone walking to the shuttle after the Georgia game with Auburn fans. Like, it was
And
immediately like,
all back together, we're all family rooting for the same team.
absolute. I immediately said, I was like, it was a stadium divided, but a people united now.
Yeah, I heard the score came up in the stadium,
Oh,
and there was a collective cheer from everybody.
they played Vandy highlights on the jumbotron during
Nice,
that game.
nice.
And we will get to it in a little bit. But we would love to talk about a lot more games this weekend because there were a lot of phenomenal games this weekend.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
but we just based on time constraints, we don't really have time. If you have an issue with that, first off, send me a message if you want my takes on any of these games. But second, if you have an issue with it, call Helene's PR team to bitch about it because ain't shit we can do about last week. You know
yeah. Her fault. Her fault.
what a bitch. All right, so we are going to do calling the dogs early this week because, our resident Tiger called in. So we're going to do it way early. And then there is a George voicemail in there. We'll get to it after the Georgia talk. But all of them are going to be right here. So here's this week's calling the dogs.
All right, y'all. This is Dr. Frog here. What in the actual fuck just happened this weekend? First things first. Georgia looked like shit today. They came out flat. They looked exactly like they have all frickin' season. I'm sorry. I don't see how this team doesn't go 10-2 at the bare minimum. If we have a couple of issues, we're going to end up 9-3. Which, don't get me wrong, there's still a chance we sneak into the college football playoff with that. But, come on now. We need to get it together. And while some of that is on Carson Beck and the receivers, a lot of it really is on the coaching staff. They're really not kind of doing well here, let's be honest. And I know everybody wants to jump down the train of, well, we can't just yell about Bobo this and Bobo that. And I get it. But honestly, my biggest issue with Mike Bobo at this point has nothing to do with play calling. It is he is not designing this offense to reflect the players that we have. We can't keep lining up in the 12-man offense with two tight ends when we don't have frickin' the bodies to do it correctly. It's just moronic. Additionally, you can't keep trying to fake like you're going for it on fourth down every single time. Everybody is seeing through this. It is ridiculous. Now, let's take a turn here for a second. Vandy just beat the shit out of Alabama. What the actual fuck? Because let's be honest. How in the fuck did we lose to this goddamn Alabama team? This is ridiculous. Because I'm sorry, this Vanderbilt team is not that good. They've lost to Georgia State. So what does that tell you about our fucking team? Look, I'm all for Kirby Smart. I think he definitely deserves a couple of years to get it right. But right now, the offense is just not firing on all cylinders. And to be honest, I think that partly is due to issues with Mike Bobo. So let the Bobo hate finally flow through you. I've been a Georgia fan since, God knows. I've been on campus from 2010 to 2016. I know what a shitty Mike Bobo offense looks like. And this is it. Alright, y'all. Hopefully we get to the next couple weeks, because I'm going to be losing my sanity. Go Dogs. Hopefully UCF beats the shit out of Florida. Let's go.
I feel like it's Mardi Gras. LSU undoubtedly just went top 10. Bama folded. Tennessee folded. Michigan folded. Who else? Mizzou folded. It's like Christmas until we play Ole Miss. This is a preview. I got the Tigers by 7. Dart throws 2 interceptions. You're first.
Those are great. You'll hear them tomorrow. But you will have some things to. You will have a nice conversation with Dr. Frog about some of the things he said.
I'm sure. I kind of have an idea of where he was going just based on what he was saying yesterday. Might touch on some of the things that he said just by accident, but we'll see where that goes. I'm excited to hear him though. Look, just the looks on your faces. I always enjoy calling the dogs when other folks actually get to call in. I do love hearing Dr. Frog's takes all the time.
All right, guys, if you want to be in later this week's Calling the Dogs, 912-514-0707. This week will be Mississippi State, so that'll be interesting. The Dog Bowl, if you will. But we're going to get into Michigan at Washington. Some other dogs, a revenge game, if you will, from January. Michigan has started 3 different quarterbacks this season. None of them are good.
No.
Jack Tuttle went 10 of 18 for 98 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. On the Washington side of things, Will Rogers is still a good quarterback. A lot of people saying it was just the air raid system, but he did go 21 to 31 for 271 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Michigan lost this game because they don't have a quarterback. I just point blank period. They were close the entire game. And the rest of the team is good. They have 2 good running backs. They have a pretty good offensive line. They have pretty good wide receivers. Their defense is elite. But when your quarterback can't move the ball, and when he does, according to this stat line, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 1 fumble. That's bad.
More
That's real
turnovers
bad.
than touchdowns is never a good sign.
No. How much do you think Michigan fans would love to have Cade McNamara back from Iowa?
I would take him at this point. I would take most MAC quarterbacks at this point if I were Michigan. Like,
TJ Finley would be a hell of a Michigan quarterback.
yeah,
I know it's
that's
not MAC,
true.
but anyways.
Still, that's close enough. Other alternate question: how much would they pay to get Connor Stallions back on the staff?
Um, an
He did nothing
undisclosed
wrong, guys. He did nothing wrong.
an undisclosed amount of money. I think we
Yeah.
should.
Transmitted into a McDonald's bag.
No, I think we should ask Dave Portnoy how much he would pay to get Connor Stallions back on the staff.
There we go.
Because
But yeah, I
what 2 weeks ago he was like, I will personally give $3 million to the next Michigan quarterback because we can never have this again.
yeah. They've got to go out and get somebody. But yeah, no, Michigan. I say it in there that they're just not good. But like you said, they've got talented players, but they don't have JJ McCarthy. They don't have Jim Harbaugh out there coaching. Again, they don't have their opponent's signs anymore. So what do you do? At this point, I mean, they kind of knew. I think it was a throwaway season. That's why none of their staff had contracts,
Contracts.
and that is why, we're in the situation that we're in, where Michigan is, fans are probably going to go be happy with 8-4 this season. You should be Michigan fans. If you go 8-4, celebrate that 8-4 season and that Capital One Bowl win over Tennessee. I don't know, somebody, and pat yourself on the back with that, because that's the ceiling at this point. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a loaded Big Ten. You got your national championship right off in the sunset.
Yeah, no, that's a real rough one. Um, Man, another block in that had a rough day. Mizzou at A&M.
I want
That
Missouri to be good so bad.
They were so much fun last year when they were good.
I know. And then this season, they're doing this. Well,
Yeah. No, I mean, I think the biggest thing we got from this game was we now see why every coaching staff that Connor Wigman has played for has talked about how good he is. Because if
yeah,
this is what they saw at practice, it makes sense on why he would still be starting.
it just hadn't materialized in a game that mattered yet.
Yeah, and it did now. He went 18-22 for 276 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. But when you run the ball like they did on Mizzou, why throw a ball towards the end zone? Truly.
Right.
Le'Veon Moss had 12 carries for 133 yards and 3 touchdowns. Mari Daniels had 9 carries for 34 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Connor Wigman had 5 carries for 33 yards. And they had like 4 other guys get rushing stats. That's
Yeah, just bullying the defensive line of Missouri there. There's no other way to put it. When a guy's averaging over 10 yards a carry and carrying the ball that many times, you might have a problem on the
yeah.
defense.
And then it was like a 76-yard touchdown that Le'Veon Moss had where no one came close. It's not like he had to break a tackle or make somebody miss.
He just
Like,
went through a hole and kept running.
like with the way that he was so open, Like, man, you give me some like professional stretching from one of these staffs, I may have been able to score that touchdown.
Yeah. Tate Ratledge during physical therapy right now may have been able to score that touchdown.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, like, I may not be able to move the next day, you know, but let
But you'll
me
do
let me
it.
get in that ice bath with the boys. I'll be all right.
Yeah. You'll have earned
Um,
it after that touchdown.
you know who won't be all right? Uh, Brady Cook. 13 to
Yeah.
32, 186 yards and one touchdown. He didn't turn the ball over. Solid, solid.
Hmm.
Um, but the entire team combined for 68 rushing yards. So they had 254 total yards. That's
That's not going to win you any football games whatsoever.
no, 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 no. A&M had 201 rushing yards just
Yeah.
off of those three guys we talked about, and they had other guys get rushing stats, and that's
Almost the
all.
entire Missouri offense. That's dismal.
Yeah, this game in particular, I watched slash listened to most of this game while I was driving to the Georgia game from down in Jackson. Um, and A&M looked like a legit contender in this one. They have two tough games remaining on the schedule: LSU in 2 weeks and Texas in the last week of the season. At this point, if A&M beats LSU, they may actually be in contention to play for Atlanta in their first time ever. And that's counting like
Yeah.
that's saying they absolutely lose to Texas, they would be 7-1 in SEC play. And with how everybody else
Yeah.
looks, can you guarantee anybody else has that?
No, you can't. Now, the one thing I will say, because it was brought up quite a few times in the broadcast, that's what they have left as long as they beat Missouri here. It's that LSU game and that Texas game. And I did have to sit back and think, well, it's not really going to matter as much when they go out and lose against Mississippi State in 2 weeks, because that's who this Texas A&M team has been. Is they'll look like world beaters one week, and then the next week they'll go out there and stink up the field, almost losing to Bowling Green or lose to Appalachian State. But I'll give them the benefit of the doubt for now. They could absolutely be a dark horse to make the SEC championship with that schedule, as long as they play to what they're supposed to be. And Mike Elko is not Jimbo Fisher, so
No.
really, you never know.
So the remaining schedule, they have Mississippi State in 2 weeks, LSU after that. South Carolina, they're playing at South Carolina
Yeah, don't
on
sleep on that.
November 2nd. New Mexico State. Um, all
Don't sleep on
the
New Mexico State either. Although, uh, whatever his name is off somewhere else, beating other top teams in Alabama.
Then they play at Auburn the week before they play Texas at home.
Mhm.
Um,
Auburn's another sneaky. It wouldn't be a sneaky one for many other teams, but for Texas A&M, watch out for Auburn.
yeah, no, that's a good one. But I just, man, if they play like they did on Saturday, maybe watch out Texas.
Yeah, maybe. I think I had in
Um,
my helmet prediction Texas losing to Texas A&M, but and if that is, hey, Dr. Damas once again. But I also had Missouri beating Texas A&M in this game, so we'll see.
yeah, I don't know what my helmet schedule looks like, but after this week, I guarantee
None of
you,
ours are correct.
I was about to say, I guarantee you this week's a lot more wrong than right.
Yes.
Um, man, Tennessee at Arkansas. And first bullet here, LOL at Tennessee.
LOL. This is, couldn't happen to a better fan base.
And, we'll get to the exact point on why I'm laughing at Tennessee. But we are going to hit on Arkansas just for the adversity they face in this game alone. So, Arkansas and Sam Pittman, first off, Sam Pittman with an all timer at the end of that game. All the fans around him that wanted him fired 6 months ago. And they asked him about what he thought about being a part of them storming the field. And obviously, this is the second time it happened. First one when they beat a ranked Texas team. And he's like, you know, Hunter talking about their athletic director may be mad at how much money we owe them, but right now I don't care.
Yeah, I
And
know. Where in the back of Sam Pittman's mind do you think, well, this is less money they have for a buyout if things go wrong? But
I don't think at all. I think he 100% lives in the moment when it comes to stuff like that. And I really want to know, it may be on social media, I don't really know. I want to know what the first song on the jukebox in the locker room was. Because, after every win, he gives a speech and
Hmm.
finishes it with, turn on that damn jukebox.
Yeah, I'll tell you. After the game in the speakers in the stadium, they were playing Rocky Top.
Oh, as the Tennessee player was pushing an Arkansas fan female to the ground.
Yeah, yeah.
And, after I specifically defended Tennessee after Jermaine Burton did that, you can't be doing it.
You
It's
can't you
trash.
can't do that.
It's
Why
trash.
is Tennessee involved in so many woman shoving incidents? I know Jermaine Burton didn't play for Tennessee, but still.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, like I'm if I defended Tennessee fans when that happened, which I did, and we still talk shit about Jermaine Burton to this day because of that one specific incident.
We got to treat Tennessee the same way when they do it here.
Yeah, and I don't know what player it was because it wasn't a situation where the fan was taking a video when they got face palmed to the ground.
Hmm.
But I need to do some digging and figure out who that player is because,
Yeah,
buddy, you just took Jermaine Burton's spot as on blast anytime something bad happens.
yeah. Question is, will Josh Heupel do more about it than Nick Saban?
Absolutely not. No. Um. So going back to the adversity, I know we went off on a tangent a little bit. Arkansas lost their kicker in the first half after he missed that field goal. He immediately was grabbing his groin after that, and as someone who has pulled their groin, kicking anything just sounds absolutely awful.
Stuff. Yeah.
And then immediately after that, one of the most fun quarterbacks in the country went out late in the game, bringing in true freshman Malachi Singleton from Kennesaw, Georgia. Shout out. Um, Fun fact: true freshman. He attempted 11 passes in his career before coming in the game against the number 2 ranked total defense in the country and
We're
put
asking a
drives
lot of
together
this
to win
too.
that game.
Hmm.
That's nuts.
Yeah, that is incredible. What a way to get started on your career. There's probably going to be talk about a quarterback controversy now. Uh, I don't know how much you want to buy into that if you're Arkansas, but I mean, give the dude his flowers. He, at the very least, will never have to buy a drink in the state of Arkansas again.
No. And good for Arkansas. They do actually have a bye week this week, so hopefully, whatever happens with Taylor Green, maybe come back against that LSU team with no defense because, good lord, I want to. That's a Golden Boot game I will be watching.
Oh yeah. Um,
Um, Even though it
I
will be
might
on the
step
same
down
time as
here
Georgia.
because I think the person's coming to let me into the car. So
Okay.
I'll be back in just a minute.
All right. All right. So that is it for the Arkansas Tennessee game. Well, no, it's not. One last thing. I do think it's funny how Tennessee's defenders gave up trying to stop Malachi Singleton from
Yep.
scoring on that last drive because they wanted to get the ball back to their offense. Um, and then what do they do after they drove all the way down to the red zone? Nico runs out of bounds with 0 time left on the clock.
Yeah.
$8 million play
I,
if you ask Tennessee fans.
yeah. I've got to say, Nico Yamaleva is going to be special. I think it's pretty clear that he's not right now, at least not consistently. Like, good job doing it against Akron, but he's got a little ways to go. And we were talking. I say we media have been talking about them like a potential like playoff lock the first few weeks of the season, and they may still make the playoff. I'm not saying they won't, but there is a real possibility that they don't, especially now that it seems like there's not a road game on the schedule that's not got a question mark next to it.
For sure. No, it's their schedule's gotten very interesting with how Nico has looked against legitimate opponents. I mean, he's 58.6% for 158 yards, no touchdowns yesterday. Um, I mean, the biggest thing to me is if Dylan Sampson was not on that team, they would have lost to Oklahoma. They would have lost, or they did lose to Arkansas.
Yeah,
Um, Dylan Sampson, 15th in the country in rushing yards, second in rushing touchdowns, had himself another day. 22 carries for 138 yards and 2 touchdowns. But they are currently second in total offense with yards per game. Legit. If you take away just Dylan Sampson's rushing yards, not even his receiving yards, they dropped to 62nd in total offense.
Oof.
They would
Maybe
be
we were looking at
just
the wrong
above.
Tennessee player for a Heisman.
Yeah, they would be just above Sam Houston State, the Bearcats. Yeah,
Which, I think that's part of their the Rocky Top song, isn't it? Half bear, other half cat.
I don't know if I've ever listened to the lyrics, so I don't know.
You shouldn't. They're very strange and weird.
Um, but a little bit into the Heisman conversation, Dylan Sampson, how is he not higher on the list? He is currently behind guys like Avery Johnson, Miller Moss, Drew Aller, and Shadur Sanders.
I think for the same reason Shadur Sanders is so high on the list. I think that the media hype train was Kerry and Nico, and so they weren't paying attention to who's this other kid? I don't know. Nico, yeah.
I mean, he's at plus 13,000 odds.
Mm. And
That's
the sad thing about that too, the media narrative carries so much of the Heisman conversation all the way up until the Heisman is awarded, because so many of these players don't play each other, that it's you might not ever see the actual best player in the country if there's a media narrative getting behind somebody winning the Heisman. Now, I am personally a fan of moving it to at least the week before the national championship game at
I
this
agree with
point,
that.
but especially since more of these players are going to play each other,
I
you get to
agree
see
with
more
that.
good on good.
The big thing to me is, in previous years, it's been like, yeah, well, it's just quarterback award. Well, we talked about it earlier. Ashton Jeanty from Boise State's leading at plus 190.
Mm-hmm.
Travis Hunter is just behind him at I think plus 250. But I mean, if we're being honest, Travis Hunter is doing absolutely insane things, and he deserves to be in that top conversation.
Absolutely.
Um, But yeah, no, I think Dylan Sampson deserves more love, and this is coming from somebody that obviously is not a Tennessee fan, despises most things Tennessee. But
I'll be
without Dylan
spending this whole
Sampson,
week
they've
laughing at
lost
their
two
fans,
games.
no doubt.
Oh, here's a part I've been waiting for. We got Alabama
Speaking of
at
laughing at teams,
Alabama at Vanderbilt. I mean, y'all know we were getting to this. We just had to ease you in, talking shit about a
yeah.
few other teams, and then put the hammer
Then
down
get to
on
the
this one.
magnum opus of the whole week. Oh, chef's
Yeah,
kiss. Yeah.
Vandy takes down the Crimson Tide 40-35 and takes the goalpost down Broadway, confusing dozens of bachelorette parties on the way to the Cumberland River, making an anchor in the river, if you will. Um, just
Nice.
amazing, amazing. And I'm gonna be honest, pretty much all of my takes on this game are Vanderbilt based because we've probably talked about Diego Pavia more than 90% of college football podcasts that aren't Vanderbilt related.
This is the only podcast I've ever listened to where I've heard his name mentioned. So that's
I
accurate.
mean, he's a fucking dog.
He is.
16 to
He's just
20
got something
for
in him.
16 to 20, 252 yards, two touchdowns, no picks, 20 carries for 56 yards, got sacked 0 times.
Dude is a
0 times.
legend.
And to me, the biggest difference in this game was fight.
Mm-hmm.
It was, for lack of a better term, desperation. You know, Vanderbilt was fighting like a caged tiger where he knew somebody was coming to take his damn skin for a rug. There,
Yep.
there was no give up. There was no somebody else is making that tackle. There was no, oh, he's better than me. We'll get him next time. No, they went out and just beat the fuck out of Alabama
Yeah.
in time
What
of
him?
possession, turnovers, rushing yards, and didn't get passing yards, but damn near did.
Yeah. I gotta say too, when Alabama came out, start the second half, scored a touchdown on the first drive pretty quickly, like most teams would have. So I thought, okay, this is over. Alabama's going to pick it up, and they'll come back and win the game. And Vanderbilt just kept on fighting, kept on going.
I mean, Diego Pavia, for one, his post game speech with 70 family members in the crowd all around him. I think it was 70. I don't know. I got a whole other story about watching the end of this game. Um, just quick tangent. We get to my in-laws' house last night. Would you like to know what we walk into? No one's home. No one's home. They're letting us stay there for the night. No one's home. Their power's off.
Oh no,
About 5 minutes later, it came back on, but
that's
I almost started Joker laughing. Like it was,
considering you just left your house as it was getting power.
yeah, yeah. We walk in, flip a light switch, and nothing happens. I just started
Oh
Joker
gosh.
laughing. It was bad. Um, but Jalen, or not Jalen Milroe, Diego Pavia's post game speech, he's like, it's God's timing. This is all God's plan. And if you've heard anything about the Diego Pavia backstory on how he got where he is, you knew he would do some shit like this given the opportunity. I won't go into it here because I'm going to go way too long about it. Um, but, and then he's like, they ask, oh, how do you feel doing this in front of so many family members? And he goes, let's go, Vandy, we're fucking turned. All time. Because
America's quarterback right there.
ESPN was not quick enough on the beat button on
Yeah.
that live interview. Oh,
Got another Lee Corso moment. I love it. I love it.
oh, it was awesome.
Yeah.
But man, Vanderbilt not trying to be cute, not trying to do too much, and then on the other side of it, we saw Jalen Milroe and Ryan Williams dropping it low after scoring a touchdown to make it a one-score game in Vandy's favor.
Yeah. You're losing to Vanderbilt.
You're
Like,
losing to
calm down, kid.
Vanderbilt, and you score a
Did you know he's
touchdown.
17? I don't think
What?
anybody's talking about this. He's 17 years old.
No way.
Yeah.
17-year-old, I mean, too young to lose to Vandy, I can tell you that much. Um, but no, like they were legit dropping it low, like listening to Lil Jon back in the day with some boots and fur kind of shit going on to make it a one
Down a
possession game.
touchdown late.
Yeah. And it's like, what? And it felt like the entire time, none of the Alabama players felt like they were going to lose this game. They're like, yeah, we're struggling, we'll get it.
Yeah.
Ego lost
And
them
and
this
not
game.
not to hammer this point because everyone's saying it right now. This doesn't happen if Nick Saban is still on that sideline.
I,
It might happen once, and then he's gonna whip him into shape.
Nick Saban 2 weeks ago said Vanderbilt's the only easy place to play in the SEC because it feels like a home game.
Yeah, humility is always 1 week away.
Yeah, I mean, ego lost them this game, and desperation
Mm-hmm.
won Vanderbilt this game. And
Absolutely.
fighting tooth and nail, just not being fucking stupid, not trying to be cute, not doing too much, just out there fighting every single play, every single second. That's why Vandy won this game. And Diego Pavia is a motherfucker.
He is.
Like,
Take it from the world's leading Diego Pavia scholar himself.
man, like, I don't know what it is about Vandy quarterbacks the last 3 years, but going back to Mike Wright, like,
Oh yeah, they're awesome.
God, dude, they're just so much fun.
Yeah, yeah. But I'll tell you what, like watching this game, there's a temptation, and again, I have an idea about what we heard in calling the dogs. There's a temptation, especially among Georgia fans, to say, "Oh, well, this just shows how bad Georgia." Like, no, it shows you Alabama's inconsistent, and any given Saturday, anything can happen whatsoever. This doesn't say a thing about Georgia to me. It says a lot. The way Alabama showed up on the field, it says a lot about them personally. It says a lot about the respect level I have for Kalen DeBoer compared to the respect level that I have for Nick Saban. Um, but Georgia fans, if you're not laughing at this one and you're just trying to use it as an excuse to complain more, like, come on, y'all. I know they're not a traditional rivalry, but they are probably our biggest rival for the top spot in college football. And they just got embarrassed by a team much worse than they are. That's what makes it embarrassing. And it was only one touchdown. but they were a double-digit favorite, and they went in there and never had a lead at any point in the game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they were
Like,
down
that's
13
funny.
nothing before they scored a point.
Yeah, laugh at that, Georgia fans. It's funny.
With a pick six.
Yeah. That was his first pick of the year, Jalen Milrose, right? It's a pick six into the arms of a Vanderbilt defender.
And it was like a 60-yard pick six. It's not like it was like, oh, they're backed up into their own end zone. Like, no, this dude took the ball and ran most of the field.
Yeah, Ryan Williams did not catch up to him.
He's only 17, give him
So
time.
yeah, it's a
Yeah, no, that was just wild. And, I talked about it earlier, sitting there with Auburn fans on the shuttle back to the intramural fields, just, huddled up. Everybody on the bus had a phone out with 3 or 4 people watching it. It's one of those, like, we are a society moments.
yes. I went to my sister's house in Jefferson to watch the game because we still didn't have power. And so we had to drive through Athens. And so we drove through it on the way back, and we stopped at a small town outside of Athens to get Zaxby's. And everybody in there was saying two things to each other: "Go Dogs" and "Go Doors."
Where did you stop?
We all love to see it. Uh, I don't even know the name of the little town, to be honest with you. There's just a Zaxby's in the middle of nowhere, and we were like, "Oh, we gotta get something to eat." But there are plenty of Georgia fans driving back home to wherever they came from.
Dang. So we probably crossed paths yesterday and didn't even know it.
Probably. I didn't realize you were at the game until you were already there.
Yeah, at the game, and then drove back to Weiner to stay at my in-laws. Which, shout out the state of Georgia for turning all the red lights on 316 into overpasses. Like that
Let's go.
cuts an hour out of the drive back from a Georgia game.
Mm-hmm. Good on you. Good on you.
All right, got to get to this Georgia game, and we have wildly different takeaways from this game.
We
Like,
do. Neither of us is particularly happy, I would say, but we do have some very different takeaways to share.
yeah, like I'm be honest, real just frustrated with how the last fucking 10 days have gone, and not feeling great. And then on top of that, sitting there baking in the sun all day because yeah, it's October. Why should it be below 95 degrees in Sanford Stadium?
Right. That would make sense.
Yeah, and I will say, positive, positive note. I did get my first legal alcoholic beverage in Sanford Stadium yesterday.
One you didn't have to stick up your keister on the way in.
Normally I put a flask in my bootleg.
Ah.
Yeah. But I don't get to do that for summer games because I'm not a psycho and wearing jeans and boots to a game in October.
Right, right.
But no, I did pay $12 for a Tropicalia and hated every moment of the paying for it. Loved every moment of the drinking it.
Fair enough. Nice
All
out
right.
in the open drinking in Sanford Stadium. I'll get to indulge in mine next week.
You going to the game next week?
Yeah, we're taking our 3-year-old to her first game next week. So
Oh, we got to
that's
talk
not
about.
going to stop me.
Yeah, we got to talk about that while we're not recording
Yes.
because I'll be there. So
Nice.
fuck a hurricane. I'm going to a game. So I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. This game was difficult to watch in the stadium. I know they won 31-13, and Auburn never got really close. Here's the problem. If Auburn had, I'm trying to think of a mid-level quarterback that everybody can think of.
KJ Jefferson.
I don't know about KJ
Eh,
because with
eh,
what we've seen this season, his arm's not what it used to be.
That's fair.
Oh, all right. If Auburn had Lenoris Sellers,
Good shout.
they score 42 points in this game. And I say that as someone who my seats are at the perfect height to watch plays develop. Auburn receivers were running with 10 yards of separation all day. All day. If they had a quarterback that could hit those guys, a lot of problems. I mean, just the play in the end zone where Dalen Everett covered Cam Coleman on the potential touchdown. if that was accurately thrown, that was pass interference 8 days out of the week. Like, let's be honest here. So, with a good, not great, not elite, a good quarterback, I think Auburn puts up 42 points in that game without a question.
So here's where I'll step in
Okay.
to defend the defensive backs a little bit. I'm not going to say that these defensive backs that we have in the backfield are Kamari Lassiter. They are not. I understand that. It's not up to the usual standard we have for Georgia defense, at least on the corner room. Obviously, the safeties are great. But they knew they were playing against Peyton.
Is that
And
an
that's I think
excuse?
they
Is that an
I'm
excuse to
not
give
I'm not
7 to 10 yards of separation?
well here's the thing. Are they given 7 to 10 yards of separation because they couldn't keep up with elite Auburn receivers while they've been able to keep up with pretty much everyone not named Ryan Williams the rest of the year? Like I think the plan was let's dare Peyton Thorne to throw the ball to us and make him think he's got opportunities because I don't think he could get the ball there. So
But he did, and they weren't able to change it. They weren't able to do anything going down the stretch. Like anytime he got out of the pocket and tried to throw the ball, he had a guy open.
he did, but they also knew he wasn't going to get there. So I think the main focus may have been. I'm not going to excuse leaving guys open. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying they have been fine the rest of the year. I'm willing to say you're playing Peyton Thorne. You're probably more worried about making sure if you need to go cover a run lane, you can do it than cover a receiver.
Yes, but all that aside, just secondary tackling yesterday, terrible, terrible.
Yeah, that it was. Everyone not named Dan Jackson was not doing their part back there.
Every time Auburn tried a screen or a wheel route, it was there wide open, getting a first down. I mean, for Peyton fucking Thorne to have 7 yards per completion, I should not, or 7.4 yards per attempt,
Yeah,
should not happen. Shouldn't
a
happen
lot
that
of
way.
that was yards after the catch because either guys weren't getting into space or guys weren't making it. I can agree with that.
Bubble screens, wheel routes, they were all there all day long. Almost every single one of them went for a first down. Like so while I am frustrated with what happened yesterday, I to me it it seems like a lack of discipline. And it could be one bad game that's compounded by everything that happened in the offseason that was discipline issues. Could be.
Mm-hmm.
It could be that there's a lot of things going on. It's making me this angry about it. But the way they have played yesterday, the way they played against for at least the first half at a minimum of that Alabama game, that is absolutely in no way, shape, or form close to the standard that Kirby Smart has set for this program. And the question is it players not listening, or is it what is it? Like there's
Yeah,
obviously something happening. 6 out of the last 8 quarters of football, the defense has not been anything close to like what we're used to seeing.
I have to agree with that, and I'm going to get into this complaint a little bit on the offensive side too. They're lacking some physicality, specifically in the secondary. Like we'll talk about it later. I know defensive line, has been lights out most of the season as
For
far as
sure.
they can go. They've been banged up, but they've been, doing what they can. They've been playing physical. Linebackers, I think we can agree, have been really, really getting after it. But yeah, those guys in the secondary just I hesitate to use the word soft when talking about football because those guys could tear my beard out through my bottom, but they just seem to be playing softer than we're used to for what a Georgia secondary is supposed to look like.
Right. Like you have Glenn Schumann, Will Muschamp, and Kirby Smart as your coaches. How are you playing this poorly? Because I'd be willing to bet a significant amount of money it has nothing to do with coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And so, a little bit of going back to what we were talking about with Alabama, the problem that I see, and this is, take it for what it's worth, almost every guy on the team is playing like he is the hero. And not that they're making hero plays, but they think they're already the hero. They think they are better than the guy across from them, and that guy can't do anything to stop them. There's a lack of effort. And going back to last week and, even a little bit in the first half of the Clemson game, it's almost like every guy on the team is playing scared or playing like they don't have to try to beat you. And both of those end up with poor decisions, bad angles, lack of discipline, and, losing football games down the road.
Yeah. Now, thankfully, if it is a discipline issue, if it's a mental issue, that can be cleaned up if they let it get cleaned up.
Yeah, for
So we
sure.
can hope that it's that, and hope that as we get down the stretch of these bigger games and they're watching tape on it, they will improve themselves. But
And
that's the optimist in me coming out, and it's going to come out again in this conversation.
so on offense, I don't think Carson's making good decisions. He isn't taking deeper shots that are open. And like I was saying a minute ago, from where we sit inside of the stadium, we can see plays develop. That's why we haven't moved our seats down. That's why we haven't changed anything since we got the seats, because I can sit in my spot and tell you within 5 yards of the receiver is going to be open. And yesterday in particular, I can count at least 5 times that Lawson Lucky, Dylan Bell, Colby Young, Dominic Lovett had very good separation for probably touchdowns, and Carson took the check down. And that tells me he's scared. Scared to make a mistake, scared he's going to get hit. I don't know what it is, but when you have Dylan Bell with 10 yards of separation, 50 yards downfield, and you're not even taking a shot, that's a problem.
Yeah, when it's Dylan Bell especially, because I'll get into the other guys later. Dylan Bell is one of the two guys I think have really emerged as trustworthy, reliable people in this receiving corps.
Yeah, and going to the receivers, they're not blocking on run plays. Everybody wants to say, "Oh, Bobo's just running it on the inside." When I have a list of names that I personally watched give up on blocks seconds after they got there, you're running it on the inside because your line's not going to give up. They might get beat. They're not giving up. Just
Yeah, the
yesterday in
outside guys,
particular.
you run it to.
Go ahead.
Oh no, you go. I was probably about to just agree with whatever you're about to say. So go ahead.
So yesterday in particular, Dominic Lovett, Dylan Bell, Arian Smith, Oscar Delp, Benjamin Urasek gave up on blocks within seconds of getting to their guy in the run game. When I have, what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4? When I have 5 names, including 2 tight ends that gave up on blocks, you're not running it on the outside.
No.
So,
and these aren't even. You're not even talking about wide receivers. Those are tight ends specifically.
3 wide receivers, 2 tight ends. Just
3
giving
tight.
up.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, just giving
Yeah,
up.
yeah. I have the same problem with those guys you do. I will defend Carson a little bit. The broadcast team made a big deal out of the fact that his completion percentage for this season so far is way down from where it was last season. It was 72 last season. It was 63 going into this game. He completed 82% of his passes in this game, and just in terms of a statistical efficiency perspective, he had probably his best game of the year just looking at efficiency. But he wasn't taking those deep shots down the field when he had the opportunity. He was kind of playing it really, really safe. And, part of me was disappointed in that because we talked some after the Alabama game. Like, he really let it rip in the second half of that Alabama game. And he threw that last interception, but he should have learned, I can take some more risks and chances because some of these guys will have my back. Doesn't look like he's learned that, unfortunately. But part of me can't blame him because if Arian Smith gets open on a deep route and you throw it to him, you might as well just waste the down because he's not going to catch the ball.
So I
You
do want
throw
to
a
hit on
50-50 ball.
I do want to hit on. Yeah, there's one play in particular that we all know from that game against Auburn, where Carson lets it rip for the first time in the game. Probably 2/3 of the way through the second quarter, Carson lets it rip. Fun fact: Arian Smith. So it appeared to be a double move where he was supposed to go on the inside based on where Carson threw that pass. What you didn't see from the TV copy is Arian did the double move and then moved back outside and quit running, started essentially walking, and then moved back inside. I don't know a route on the tree that is called zigzag.
Yeah,
I don't know a route on the tree that's called run 40 yards and stop.
yeah.
Like
And
that.
that's I had heard all off season that Arian Smith was stepping up and being somebody they were going to start relying on at the receiver position. But every time Carson Beck has tried, it hasn't shaped out. I like Colby Young a lot. I think Colby Young has done some great things, but in a lot of the 50-50 situations where he's got to be aggressive and physical and go get the ball, he hasn't done it. Um, you
So
know, uh,
there's one play in particular in the game that happened yesterday that you could say was on Colby, but I think it's just as much on Carson. It's supposed to be a back shoulder throw. Colby Young runs his route, turns around, and the ball's thrown at the cornerback, which is not the back shoulder. And if the corner was paying a little bit more attention, that could have been an interception. And the
yeah,
ball was
which it was. It was basically the same throw in the Alabama game that cost the game.
right. And
Because I agree, Carson didn't get that one right at all. Now Colby still could have had a little more fight in him, but there was nothing he could do to really make the play there. I agree with
and
you there.
the question is when it comes to if it's the same play multiple times, is Colby breaking the route off a couple yards early, which could be entirely possible, or is Carson getting a little antsy and missing the throw? As outsiders
Also
without the
possible.
playbook, knowing where
Mhm.
Colby's supposed to cut that route off and come back, we don't know. But when you see it in a game and the back
Yeah, and
shoulder's
you're
open
you're
and it's
you're
missed deep,
talking about Carson's. Yeah,
like that, it seems to be a Carson problem, but like you said, it could just as well be a Colby issue of breaking the
yeah,
route off. But,
yeah, yeah. And and the locked in blame for these things on one group or one person. Truth is probably somewhere in the middle, like it is with a lot of these things. Um, but it is frustrating to kind of continue to see some of these mistakes we're making early in the season that look like after the Alabama game we might have some of that figured out, particularly when it comes to Dylan Bell, who I have nothing but love and respect for. I think he and Lawson Lucky have sort of proven themselves as the guys who can just go make plays when you need them to. And for whatever reason, in this Auburn game, we just Carson didn't do it or Bobo didn't scheme it up. Some of this eventually execution issues, no matter who it's on, has to come back to Mike Bobo. And I love the guy. You know me. I'm the biggest Mike Bobo defender on planet Earth. But eventually something's got to come back to.
right, because, this is something that I harp on with work and personal relationships. As a leader, you are responsible for everything your group does or fails to do.
Mm-hmm.
So if it is an execution issue, Carson Beck wasn't ready enough. If it is a receiver's breaking off the route too early, they were not ready enough. So were the plays that were called good plays? I mean, obviously they scored 31 points. There were guys open, shots didn't get taken. But as the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, it comes back to Bobo.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of people, including myself, have a bigger problem with the defense. And I get it.
Yeah.
They only gave up 13 points this week. But watching it in person, lack of swarm. It's something from 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. Every time there was a play, every single person on the field was running to the ball. We haven't seen that this year
Mm-hmm.
outside of Clemson and Kentucky. Like I watched defensive backs.
And it was not consistent in Clemson, Kentucky either.
Right. Like on Saturday, I watched defensive backs 5 yards from somebody trying to make a tackle stop and stand there. Like that. When is the last time you can say we saw that at the University of Georgia? What, 2013 with that arguably worst statistical defense of the 21st century for Georgia?
Yeah. Or sometime in the Willie Martinez era. Yeah.
Like that's not something we see. And I said it yesterday to the person sitting next to me in the stadium. This defense has the edge of a circle, one, and it's the front seven. Like they're,
Yeah.
I know I'm going to get attacked for this. I understand that. last year when we were throwing shade at this certain person, we got comments on every single YouTube video. Dalen Everett may be one of the least sound defensive backs to start under Kirby Smart. He has the ability to get better. He has the talent. He has speed. He has physical traits. And obviously he does those
He's
things
not
at
doing it.
practice. Right. But in games, if you go back and watch the game, almost every big play, Dalen Everett was responsible for that guy. Almost every one. And it's to a point where by the end of the first half, every big play that happened, all I said was, guess who that is? And the people around me were like, oh, yeah, that was Dalen.
Yeah.
Like, to be fair, hard working player. He has all of the traits. But it feels like back half of 22 Keely Ringo. Like, you're in the right spot. You're doing the right thing up until the very end.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're 90% of the way there. It's just that 10% that makes it to where you get your ass beat.
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating to me.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. On him in particular, I know I defended the DBs a little bit earlier. You can go ahead and exclude him from that. Again, I'm not saying I could do any of it before
No.
people start leaving comments. But Dalen Everett has not shown yet that he can play up to that standard that Georgia has for DBs consistently, and it worries me.
Right.
Like at some point, when does Ellis Robinson become better than this guy?
So I actually read something about that earlier. It was late last week. Kirby said that he doesn't know the defense well enough to start yet. Just going to be honest, I truly hope he learns it before October 19th.
Yeah,
Because
have to agree.
What, two or three Ryan Wingo busted coverages later, and we're like, hey Ellis, figure it out because we need you.
Yeah, yeah. If KJ Bolden can just get out there and do it when we need him, game one,
Right.
surely we can get Ellis out there when we need him.
And,
But
man,
I will say, back on the offensive point, and really I guess both sides of the ball fall into this. This time last year, 5 games into the season, we were averaging I think 25 points a game against Power 5 opponents. Granted, small sample size then, we didn't play a whole lot at that point, but we had not broken 30 against an SEC opponent at that point last year. And I remember tuning into our group chat and saying, "There's one guy on the field who looks like he's strong. And that's Makai Muse, and everybody else is just kind of listless." Game 6, stuff kind of kicked off, and we really didn't look back from that point, at least until that SEC championship game. But we had our reasons for that. So I'm still holding out some hope that there's something else there for this team that just hadn't woken up yet. Maybe that's just me.
I personally hope that is getting London Humphreys more involved.
Yeah, he's another proven, not proven, in the sense that most people would say, but he has shown on the field he can make plays.
Every time he's been in the game and the ball's been thrown his way, he's made a play.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's slippery.
And again, back to Bobo again. I like Bobo's play calling for the most part, but and me and Dr. Frog were talking about this too. Like, you got to get the right personnel in there to make the best plays possible, and you know who those guys are, and they're not in most of the plays other than Dylan.
Yeah, and two, I've been on a tirade about how they're not doing enough. To be fair, from the center to the right tackle, the guys that should be playing those positions are not healthy right now.
Yeah.
So, when Carson doesn't have the amount of time he normally would, when the run lanes aren't open like they normally should be, I understand it. On the flip side of that coin, why is Xavier Truss still starting right tackle?
Yeah, he's not thriving in that position. I can 100% agree with you there. And it's not like the guy's not talented, and it's not like the guy's not big and physical enough. It's just not working.
Yeah, and it hurts because of how much of a damn good dog he's been. I mean, this is his fourth or fifth year on the team. He's won 2 national titles. He's played significant parts in both of those teams, specifically injuries throughout the season. The issue is that he is a much better fit at guard than he is at tackle. But I guess they just feel like Monroe Freeling is not ready to take over that tackle position.
Yeah, which is ultimately their call, but I don't know. I feel like all positions should be on the table at this point. Uh, as many injuries as we've had, you almost need to take the spaghetti and see what sticks. And Truss ain't doing it for me right now, right guard or right tackle, excuse me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do have some more notes here, but we've been going for a hot minute, so we'll go ahead and get
Yeah,
into players of the game. Offensive player of the game, we have Trevor Etienne, 16 carries for 88 yards and 2 touchdowns. Caught 6 passes for 36 yards on top of that. We've seen one game of what he can do with a healthy offensive line going back to Tennessee Tech. The only game he has had a healthy offensive line and been eligible. So I truly hope we can get a healthy offensive line going and seeing him again soon. Honorable mention for me, Colby Young. He was really the only wide receiver that was close to a sure thing consistently on Saturday. 3 catches for 51 yards, and if 2 or 3 balls had been thrown a little bit more accurately, or if he ran the correct route, we don't know. He'd be
yeah.
close to.
I gave him some hell earlier, but he played really, really well. Let's continue. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, if those 2 passes were on the money versus a little bit too far, over 100 yards, at least 1 touchdown, it would have been a good game if they'd been on the same page. We don't know who was off the
Mhm.
page. One of them was right, one of them was wrong, and as outsiders, we don't know. Defensive player of the game, we got Tyrion Ingram Dawkins. He may have only had 2 tackles, but they were both sacks, big ones too. If the secondary
Big
could have held a
momentum
little bit,
plays.
do what?
So they both big momentum
Oh, for
plays at
sure.
that point.
And if the second level could have held, both of those sacks would have made the drives 3 and outs for Auburn. Both of
Hmm.
those fairly deep in their own territory. You know, what they had a 3rd and 17 they converted on that first drive because of that sack, and
Yeah.
the second level just couldn't hold up for that last play. For the
Marshall Walker went 16 yards. He drove right over Orange Church, just driving and running with those big guys. My God, a freshman.
player of the game, we got KJ Bolden. In my opinion, he was one of the only guys that put in a ton of effort in the secondary, sound tackling. He had 3 tackles, only one of those solo, but all of his tackles were really clean up when the first or sometimes third guy whiffed on a tackle. He was there, sure tackled, a lot of open field tackles. I mean, what they would have done without him cleaning those up, who knows?
Yeah. He was a big contributor. Dude has been just a dog all year. He's not played perfect, but I just admire the way he goes after it every time he's on. He seems like he's all over the field, and that's not his position. Like the specific spot he's in at safety is not one that you usually see that. Typically, you see that going to the star, flying around the field. He's just doing it because he knows he needs to make a play, or at least needs to be there around the ball, which is what we were talking about earlier. A lot of these guys aren't doing.
Yeah. Lumberjack Ward, the other guy in the secondary that nobody can say a bad thing about, Dan fucking Jackson. And that is a positive use of that word
Yeah,
this time. Um, he played with absolutely the most effort on Saturday. Led the team with 7 tackles, all 7 solo tackles, 1 pass defended, plus field goal block. With playing a freshman at safety, Dan is the ultimate security blanket. With the way the secondary's played in some of these big games, thank God for Dan Jackson.
yeah. He was a guy that a lot of people said, "Why is he on the team? Why is he playing a lot throughout his career?" But to me, like dude has proven himself enough. I'm not saying he's going to run with Marvin Harrison Jr. or anything like that. That's never been his role, and that's never been what he's been asked to do. But he has been a really knowledgeable hand in the secondary that will get after it when it's time to get after it. And
biggest the, the biggest thing to me about Dan Jackson is he's never gotten away from that walk on mentality. He is
yeah,
giving you everything he has on every single. It doesn't matter if it's a run play. He's sprinting up from 20 yards deep to hit somebody
hmm
every single play.
Yeah, yeah. And those are the kind of guys that I want on the team. I don't care how many stars some journalist gave in high school. I get after it. It's all I care about you doing.
Yeah, and we were texting earlier today. Like, I don't care if you have bad plays. I don't care if you just suck for a half. I do care if you put in the fucking effort.
Hmm.
And, you know, with all the guys we talked about today, that, like, at least all the guys that won awards this week, effort has not been an issue.
Yeah.
They haven't taken plays off unless they got pulled over to the sideline and swapped out for a play. Like, these are 100%, whether that 100% is a quarter of the tank or whether that 100% is a full tank, you're getting 100% of what they have on every single play from kickoff at the beginning of the game until it hit zeros.
Yeah.
Um, I do want to say one last thing, and it's about a lack of effort. This time it's from the crowd.
Yeah.
Kirby talked about it. I was in the stands. My section after halftime, 50% full. I understand it's a homecoming game against an opponent that's not ranked, but it's when my section is 50% Greek life
And
kids and their
it's a
parents.
rivalry game too.
Yes, yes. Deep South's oldest rivalry. Half of my section was Greek life kids and their parents. And how did you know when somebody's wearing $1,000 dress with a pin on it that says Zetas love their dogs, and
Yeah.
the dad's wearing a Zeta dad pin and looking like he hates his life? It's pretty fucking obvious. And when all of those people are gone at halftime and none of them made a sound in the first half. So you've been to plenty of games. You know how they have the decibel meter on the
Yeah.
jumbotron? It never broke 100 yesterday.
That is sad. We played Missouri last year. We were at that game and we talked about how the crowd didn't really seem to hit the levels they should for the type of opponent Missouri was, and it was getting up to like the 120s.
Yeah, yeah,
So that tells me a lot for a rivalry game.
yeah.
Yeah, we're both going to be there for this Mississippi State game this week. It is just Mississippi State, but Kirby's calling the fan base out, and with good reason.
Absolutely. No, I mean
So
it looked like a 2019 early season Alabama game in the second half. And I say that because student section mostly gone. Half the stands, like I said, most there might have been 6 people in our entire row come halfway through the third quarter.
yeah,
That's
that's
the most
inexcusable.
disappointed I've been in the Georgia fan base
Yeah,
in an extremely long time.
yeah. And if we're not going to show up for these games, like, what are we going to do when Tennessee comes in? You know, we can't just show up for top 10 matchups. We're not going to get them in Sanford every year. This schedule this year has made that very clear. Next year you're going to come scream your heart out for the Texas game. Okay, do it now with Mississippi State coming to town, and
Yeah,
remind everybody what Sanford Stadium is supposed to be and what that atmosphere is supposed to be.
I lose my voice every game I go to. I don't care if it's Ball State. I don't care if it's Alabama. I cannot talk after a game.
It's because you're a fan. That's how it should be.
Yeah. I am not the tea and crumpets crowd. I can tell you I thought the Auburn fan in front of me was cool until Georgia went up big and then he started plugging his ears and giving me nasty looks. But
Wow.
I mean, he left early. Good for him.
Yeah. I will just before we wrap things up completely. I would at least like to end on a positive note because I am kind of the positivity guy. Uh, we did come just short of covering a pretty big spread against one of our biggest rivals, while a lot of our other rivals lost their games this week. There's a lot to be happy about as Georgia fans. And it's nice that our program is in a place where we can come on here after winning 31-13 and complain for most of the podcast about how the players did. So, you know, it's okay to be happy if you're, a Georgia fan who's feeling pretty good about the Auburn game. I respect it. Um, Usually I'm that guy too. Maybe the last couple of weeks have beaten the niceness out of me on it. But, you know, there's plenty of hope for this Georgia team. Everything they want is still right in front of them, and they're still very good, if not even great right now, and still plenty of time for them to get up to the standard.
I don't disagree. I just
Don't want
being
to
in
hear it
this.
right now.
No, no, man, just being in the stadium yesterday and seeing the lack of effort from
Yeah.
18 of the 22, I was pissed. To
Yeah,
be fair,
understandably.
getting on the bus, watching Vanderbilt beat Alabama was great.
Yeah.
But, man, like, the lack of effort just pissed me off so bad.
Yeah, I agree. We need guys to really step up. Unfortunately, Mississippi State is not the kind of opponent that would normally bring that out, but I still want to see it because I'm not going to feel good about the Texas game until I do.
No, if I was Kirby Smart, the first thing I would do tomorrow morning is be like, okay, all right, guys, morning practice. We're not watching any film. We're not having any meetings. Get your workout clothes on. We're doing a team run to the stadium, and we are running the stadium steps until you show me you know how to put effort in.
Yeah.
Like I hope you puke. Like
Yeah.
I would. That's probably some of the military coming out, but I would cause physical pain. Like, oh, you don't want to
Yeah.
put in effort on Saturday. How about this Monday morning? You're still a little hungover from last night. Sucks to suck. Puke out that whiskey on the fucking steps.
Yeah. You think Tuesdays are hell most weeks? Just wait. The whole week is Tuesday this week.
I
Because,
damn sure would be for me.
yeah.
All right, that's going to do it for this episode. It's been a little bit of a long one. Thanks for sticking with us. As always, follow us on social media at nothing.finder.pod on Instagram, at finderpod on Twitter. Everywhere else, just look us up. You will find us there. Rate and review the show 5 stars. And as always, remember, there is nothing finer in the land
And a drunk, obnoxious Georgia fan, so start being that again, guys.